How did I convince him? I don't think I needed to convince him. I think, you know, it's funny. There's footage of another guy who wasn't. There's footage of two guys who were not picked dressed as babies. Asa was cool. He was ready to go. He was game. He wanted to do it. He thought it was a funny idea. Asa is a really creative guy in general.
Yeah. I lay on the scare, you gotta glow. You gotta glow. She had my attention, she gotta know.
I'd like to welcome everyone to another episode of the Let's Gather podcast. I'm your host Zeke. In this episode, I have Tim Lightell to speak about his movie, Manbaby. You can find more information about his movie by clicking the link in the description below. Alright, I'll let Dave a content warning for trying to use this episode. I hope you have a nice day and enjoy the show. Thank you. Welcome to the podcast.
Hey.
So if you would like to introduce yourself to the audience, then we could get started.
Yeah. Hey, everybody listening to the Let's Gather podcast. I'm Tim Lightell. I am the director and producer and writer of the movie Manbaby, which is coming out August 17th. It's coming out online, and it's coming out in Seattle and Portland and Los Angeles this year. And thank you, Zeke, for having me on. This is exciting.
Again, thank you for showing interest in the podcast. So the first question is, what would your origin story be, and how would you like to represent it?
Yeah, my origin story is that I have been making movies since I was 3 years old. So I guess I'm kind of a mutant, like in the X-Men. I was just born this way, born making movies. I came out, I think, of my mother's womb making movies. The first movie I remember making, I was 3 years old. Made a little thing with He-Man action figures with my dad. And and I've just been making movies ever since. That's my origin. I think it's I don't know if that's genetic, but it's just something in me where I've always been making things on video. And I guess in those days that was 40 years ago, because I'm 43. That was 40 years ago. That was film, that was 8mm film camera that my dad had. Been making movies for 40 years, and this is my third feature, Manbaby. It's a lot bigger than my last two features, which were a little bit smaller and shot on video. This is shot on digital, it's a bit of a bigger production. We had a little bit more money behind it, and it's much more exciting. It's the story of a comedian named Sal Howard, who is pretending to be a baby to get his wife to want to become a mother, which I know sounds like a very strange story. And so I invite everyone to watch the trailer before they make up their mind about whether they want to see it or not. And they can see the trailer on the website, which is manbabymovie.com. So, yeah.
So let's get started. So let's start at the whole process of making a movie. How is that?
Oh, yeah. Process of making a movie. It's a lot different than when I was 3 years old, for sure, right? And it's a lot different from even when I was 30 years old. It's a lot different when I was 20 years old. I'll speak specifically to making this movie. Started with a script, with an idea that I I wouldn't say co-wrote, but I wrote a version, and then I kick it to my editor. And he'd kind of go and do revisions and then kick it back to me. And we kind of kicked it back and forth for probably about a year, writing the script for Manbaby. And then we realized we needed to raise money because you need money to make a movie. And neither one of us had any money. So we did a Kickstarter. And from the Kickstarter, we actually were successful, and we got the money to start making the movie. But that wasn't enough money to finish the movie. And so we did another Kickstarter, which failed, unfortunately. And so that sort of made the process a little bit longer. But, we kept going, and we kept getting money here and there, working. My day job is video marketing. So I'm making movies in my day job, too, just for corporate clients and for that sort of thing. So so always making movies. But anyway, raising the money, getting the money together, and then finally finishing the movie. An 8-year process. So, you know, the actual making a movie, obviously you write a script, you shoot it, you edit it. When you don't have much money, you need a lot of time to make all those things happen. So yeah. I mean, yeah, that's the process of making a movie, I guess, is like, there's a lot of raising money or finding great people, right? Is another part of it. I guess it's a little reductive of me to say it's just raising money. You know, Manbaby is not just me, right? And it's all the people that I've, you know, like your podcast, Let's Gather. Like, I've gathered these people together who want to work on this vision of this crazy story, this funny story, and they do it not for what they should be being paid, you know, not for what they're worth. They're very, very talented technicians and actors, and even people that gave us locations. You know, we had different locations. We had a comedy club, we had a restaurant. People just give us these things because they want to support the arts. They want to help support, you know, my vision, and so it's meeting people and talking to people and trying to make those things happen too. Was a big part of this movie for sure.
Got it. So what goes into like talking to people in terms like, I'm not gonna say like convincing them about your movie, but like walking them through the whole process of letting them use, or like having them give them time with their talents?
Yeah. That's a good question. I mean, a lot of it is, you know, sadly, it kind of relates to the movie because it's a little bit of manipulation, right? It's a little bit of the movie is about this man who is manipulating his wife, and he's doing it with lies, and that's wrong.
Yeah.
You know, you shouldn't do that. And so, you know, unfortunately, there is a manipulation that you have to do as when you're producing a low budget movie. But hopefully you do it in a transparent way. I feel like I was always really upfront with everyone, you know, when we were making the movie, that, hey, you know, this might never be anything. You know, this might be something that just goes away. But there is a chance that it won't, and I'm kind of shepherding it. And so I think, you know, it's a little bit of just kind of, you know, selling yourself in a way. It's kind of selling that I'm going to shepherd this to the end. And I think selling the project, you know, it's going to be funny, it's going to be quality. You know, that sort of persuasion, manipulation. I don't know where the line is on that. But yeah, it's not easy, but it is at the end of the day just kind of a conversation. Mm-hmm. So
that makes sense. It reminds me of Lil Dicky when he had that video, Make This Money, where no, Save This Money, where he tried to, where the whole concept is going to different locations, or like different people like, hey, can I rent out Ferrari for this video? I don't have to do much, or like, hey, can I rent out the space? Or go to somebody else's music video, like, hey, can I use your music video real quick for my music videos? So I'm like, I can see how like that's how like speaking is, and it, like talking to people.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a super like positive, optimistic person. I think, you know, in general, it seems like you are too from the podcast I listen to, and it's like, if you just you know, people are interested. I mean, there's another side to that too, right? I do see that people are interested in, hey, what can I get out of it, right? Yeah. People are selfish, and we have to admit that. But I think also most people want the best for each other. Humans are social creatures. I think that was a line in the movie, but I think we cut that. But humans are social creatures, and so like, you know, building a community is beneficial to everyone. So it's selfish, but it also benefits. So yeah.
I would say like, if there's always like that paying it forward, where we do something good, like, or nice or good, and per se, it's not like to get anything back right now, but like later in life, something might happen for you without you even putting input.
Totally. Yeah, I definitely buy that, you know.
And so with that, so what is the writing process like? So when you have your editor,
Yeah, writing process for me is I try to write like something like every day. Like I am a pretty try to be consistent about like writing something every day. I wrote this, going on probably 9, 10 years ago now. It was very different from what became the movie. But yeah, the process was write a little bit every day. At the time, I was working as a marketing manager at an e-commerce company. So I was just like writing on my breaks and sending it off to Joe, who's the editor, and then he would edit. His role in the movie is editor, and that's kind of editor is usually somebody who just like cuts the movie on the computer, right? But his job is really editing throughout the whole process. We have a very tight relationship, tight collaborative thing. We've been making movies together for 20 years, and so his role as editor is really kind of different from a usual editor in a more Hollywood movie.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah.
And when you go to the actors and talk about the concept of the movie, what was their first reaction?
Well, that's so we had auditions for about, I would say that the audition process lasted several months, the way I remember it. It's gone on a while. This is a few years ago now, so I can't remember. But it went on several months, and we had a bunch of different choices, and this is kind of part of the writing process for me, is that like I need to know like I need to know who the actor is before I can write the script. And I know I just said I wrote the script and then we cast it, and that's true. But once I'd written the script, then I started auditioning, and we found, a bunch of different actors who could work. Is like there are maybe like 3 different Sals, and maybe I think there was always one Dana. It was always just Sydney that I wanted. But once we had kind of a bunch of different actors, I was also rewriting, and I was writing it thinking about like the actors and how they kind of were doing things in the auditions and kind of just from talking to them. And it helped me, I think, write a better script, because I was writing the script kind of for them. And that's what I've always done it that way as much as I can. Try to like write for the actor as opposed to like write something that's in my head and then try to find the thing that's in my head, because it's going to be impossible for me to find the thing that's in my head. I think it's impossible. Maybe I get lucky, but for the most part, it's like, okay, I meet you, Zeke. And it's like, okay, Zeke, I know you have a certain way of talking and you have a certain look and you are interested in certain things. And so I'm going to fit my story into you, And so that's exactly what we did with the actors for the movie.
And then with that, it becomes more, it feels more natural, it feels more real, because they're not, while they're acting, they're also playing towards their strengths, which will come out easier and more fluid.
Exactly. So yeah, so we did that, and I think it worked out really well, because everybody that's watched the movie so far has said the performances are probably their favorite thing, and I think that's I think that as the director, it's like I don't know how good I am at directing, honestly. Like I don't think I'm that good. I think I make a lot of mistakes on set, but I think one thing that I do well. One thing that this movie has is that the actors can kind of do their thing, and I let them do their thing, and I can find the things that they're doing that are funny and good, and I can help them. So they deserve a lot of credit for this movie existing and getting finished and being what it is, which is, I think, a pretty funny movie that everyone in Seattle, Portland, and Los Angeles should try to go out and see. And if you're not in those cities, that's cool. You can rent it online, Vimeo.com, on demand, Manbaby. So yeah, check it out.
And with it being in theater, how was that process of getting it?
Yeah, so the process for a lot of low budget movies is that they find distribution. They finish a movie, they take it to American Film Market, they take it to people maybe who they know in the business, who are called sales agents, right? who find distribution. For me, this movie is made completely outside of that system. This is a completely personal passion project. And I don't know any sales agents. No, I don't have any of those personal relationships. So none of those people know me. So none of them are going to do me any favors. I bet if I knew some, and if there's any watching, maybe they want to talk to me. Cause I am a nice guy and maybe my movie can help them. But I didn't want to wait. I'm not interested in sitting on a movie and waiting for distribution. Mentor of mine always says, success loves speed. So as soon as we finished this movie, I said, I'm going to get it out there. I'm going to get it into theaters one way or another. And so the way that I did that was I just contacted theaters and rented out theaters. The process in low budget movies, I don't know if you've heard this term, is called four walling. So that's exactly what we're doing in those three cities. We're going to see how this works, if we sell tickets, if we get people interested, and kind of go from there.
Nice. And definitely. And then before let's continue with that, then it goes on to the point. So wait, no, never mind. Okay, so we keep saying like 9 years.
Yeah. So we finished the movie really just a month ago. I'd say like we finished. Okay. 9 years. Yeah. So we got to do some math here, but I think like the Facebook page went live in 2013. I think I just saw that today, actually. So what's that? 2013.
That's 9.
14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Is that 9 years?
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, so that's in the Facebook. So the whole project is like a 10-year project then, actually, because Facebook page went live like right when we started shooting. So we had already like written it and cast it. And so that's another year behind that even. So yeah, so 10 years, so a decade of my life. A decade of my life given to the movie, the movie gods. So I have given them 10 years of my life. But I have a great movie. So.
And how do you keep motivated during that whole 10 years?
Oh, that's a difficult question. I lived in Seattle when we started, and then I moved to Portland with my partner at the time. And then I moved back to Seattle, and my partner and I broke up. I got fired from a job in Portland. I couldn't find work for a while. I actually was completely broke at one part in the 10 years. I had to get my dad to Venmo me actual rent money because I had nothing. I run my own business, and so this is something that happens to people. It's a thing that happens. So ups and downs of life, just like all that's happening over 10 years, as it happens to everyone over 10 years. But the movie, I guess, like gave me hope, right? In those dark times, it was like, well, like if I finish this movie, and so I don't know, like motivation. This is another thing. My mentor, guy who hired me a couple of years ago, he says, action creates motivation. So take that for what it's worth. So like life is happening and, shit's bad, shit's good. The motivation, I think, is actually just like working on the project. It's actually just doing it. It's just like, it's a way to get my mind off things. Maybe it's a way to be creative. It's a way to like solve a problem. It could be anything, but the actual doing it, that's the motivation.
Okay. Because if you're doing it, then you're finish one step and you see, oh, I gotta do another step, and then you gotta finish that, and then the cycle continues.
Yep. I think so. I mean, I think it's like 90% of it is just like taking that first step, and then the rest you can do it,
Yeah.
So yeah.
Like in science, it takes more energy to start than to continue.
Exactly.
Okay. And so what goes into the process of directing? Like, what is a director's job?
what is the director's job? Well, I mean, in the case of Manbaby, I'm the producer and the director, so I'm scheduling everything. I have a lot to do, and I would say that role is, it's kind of just like it's orchestrating and it's organizing, and it's putting things in front of the camera. It's putting the pieces together. It's getting people's schedules to match up. I mean, it's pretty organizational, I think, in a lot of ways. And then the creative stuff, is happening when everything's been organized and kind of ready to go. And it's keeping track of things, on a kind of a basic level, just keeping track, where are we in the movie? It's again, kind of going back to what I was saying before, it's about like letting people like do what they do, like letting the more, the camera person, the lighting people, the sound people, it's kind of like letting them do their job, letting them do the things that they want to do, letting them be creative. And then especially for the actors, it's like letting them be creative, like letting them try things and letting them have fun and playing around, but kind of orchestrating the playing so that it's not totally like playing, like we can't just fuck around. We have to like get work done. And so that is also kind of my job, is like just to kind of keep everybody on task a little bit. And actually, for this movie too, something that directors usually don't do, but on this movie I did, is that, I had a lot of people working on the crew who were Seattle Film Institute students. So Seattle Film Institute is a pretty big film school here in Seattle. And so there was a little bit of me kind of showing people how to do certain technical things, which was fun for me, kind of get to teach a little bit, and fun for them because they got to kind of see how things operate on a set. But that's not typical, but in this case we got to do that. And kind of goes back to what you were saying too. It's a little bit of the like give and take, it's like they gave me time, they gave me their time, and they get to learn a little bit,
So it's not like in TV where you say we have the director to see our action, then they do the clapper, and he has the megaphone. And
I did not have a megaphone. No, I did not have a megaphone. But it is just like that, actually. I mean, yes, there is a pretty common. It is like that. I mean, for the most part, and usually I'm the one. I don't have a megaphone, but I am kind of the one that has a loud voice, and I'm kind of shouting over everyone because, again, I'm trying to keep everybody on task. I'm trying to stop the playing around and get the shots that I think I need. And then, of course, when I get into the editing, I say, oh gosh, these are not the shots I need. So that happens, a little bit too. But anyway.
Yeah. So one thing, how do you convince somebody to dress as a baby for a movie?
How did I convince him? I don't think I needed to convince him. I think, it's funny. There's footage of another guy who wasn't. There's footage of two guys who were not picked dressed as babies. Asa was cool. He was ready to go. He was game. He wanted to do it. He thought it was a funny idea. Asa is a really creative guy in general. He's also a business owner. He owns a business in Portland, the Fourth Wall PDX. I don't know if anybody's listening in Portland. They should check out his coffee shop, and it's a cinema bar that plays movies all the time. Really, really neat space. Really cool place. Shout out to the Fourth Wall PDX. And Asa, has a pretty big background in theater, actually. And some really kind of underground, some really kind of wild stuff in underground theater. So he had no problem putting on the diaper. He's interested in doing new and creative things. So yeah, that was definitely not a problem for him.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
And I was reading like the press kit, and you talk about your influence. So when you was writing it, from how did you get your own voice into it and not just like remake their influence?
Yeah, I think I think I just can't help it, actually. You know, I look back on the influences for sure, and it's like those guys are and people are just they're doing something completely different from what I'm doing. I mean, they influence me, but it's like Manbaby. Yeah, kind of reviews are starting to come in. Like people are starting to write about it, you know. And somebody wrote, you know, this movie's one of a kind, and I think that's true. It's like there's really nothing like this out right now, or maybe even since. But I mean, definitely right now in a kind of a world of you know, so yeah, I mean, maybe I would say maybe, you know, there's some things kind of like this that are like TV shows, maybe like a little bit, but I think in terms of just like an independent film like this, there's really nothing like it. So yeah, it was easy to not just redo my influences because I think I just can't help it. I have a very unique point of view, and I think that's very clear in the movie, you know, that this is real out of the box kind of film.
Cool. What's that? Yes. And this whole process. So what was like the most stressful part, and then what was it the most enjoyable part?
I mean, it's interesting to think about what was the most stressful part. There was a moment. It's actually funny. This is not in production at all. I don't even know if Asa, you know, who played Sal, knows this story, but at some point Asa cut his we were doing reshoots, so this is 2020, just a couple years ago. We had to do some reshoots, and you know, the last time we shot was 2014, and so his hair is different, and you can kind of tell in the movie, like a little bit, if you're really paying attention, that his hair is a little different in some shots. And he really cut his hair though right before we were going to do some reshoots. Like he shaved his head, and he came to my door with his head shaved, and my heart just like sank, and I didn't know what to say or do. I think that was, and because we were planning on shooting, you know, and so we had to anyway, I think that was probably the most stressful moment for me. Maybe there were some other, like, I think there were some weird moments, like on set, like having to rush some things that were pretty stressful because of actor schedules. Like I had to like rush some stuff in the comedy club that I wouldn't have rushed had I not had to. Probably the most fun moment of shooting, you know, that I can remember was, if you remember in the movie, the wedding sequence was just a lot of fun. It was like kind of like, it was pretty quick too. It was like a quick shoot, and the weather was really nice, and we had a lot of people around, and I enjoyed the way it looked, and it was just kind of fun and funny. I don't know if that was, and I guess like finishing it too. The process of finishing it, like the editing of it, is also like a really fun time for me, and so that gives me a lot of good feelings. The actual like day-to-day shooting of it, like in 2014, when we were like, you know, shooting every night for a month, I think, or something, was not super stressful, but it wasn't super enjoyable either. And that's not because it's on anyone other than me. Like I don't necessarily like going on shoots. I'm much happier sitting in my room editing and making jokes with the editor, I think, than you know, being on set and staying up late. You know, I'm not big into like staying up late.
Got it.
Sort of thing. Anyway, yeah.
I just had the thought that this is a 10-year process. So like 10 years, technology changed, and you guys had research. So a lot of things. So like when we first did it, so like how was that process?
That's true. Yeah, that's a good observation. Yeah, we shot the original stuff on a pretty, at the time, state-of-the-art camera, the Blackmagic, which was kind of a new camera then. And then our reshoots were actually done on a Red. So it's a big technology difference, but in terms of like capturing the image, like the Red is, you know, I guess, Red's like maybe like maybe that was an 8K camera. I don't know. Or it's definitely 4K. And the Blackmagic is, I think, 4K too, but we were only shooting in 2K anyway. Like we always were kind of like, I was always kind of conservative about that. Like I was just like, okay, let's shoot it in 2K. So, and then, I don't even know. I might correct myself. I don't even know that the movie's actually in 2K. I think it just might be like straight HD. But that was fine because the Red is like a giant image and you just scale it down to 2K. So a good problem to have, better technology in the future. And then of course, our sound was all fucked up. Like I gotta say that we should have gotten better sound on location. That's a lesson for all you young indie filmmakers. Always get good sound on location because you need it. And I didn't. And so we spent a lot of time in ADR. So the movie sounds great. It sounds wonderful, I think. But it's because of Joe and I being very, very diligent about re-recording things and making sure that things sounded good in post-production. You can do it, but it just takes it takes a long time. And it's probably easier to just get it right the first time as opposed to trying to redo it.
Yeah, I remember reading something. If you have time to do it, if you don't have time to do it twice, to do it right.
Exactly. I like that. I have to remember that one.
Yes. And so after like a movie is finished and everything processed, like what's that feeling like of like relief?
Oh yeah, that is a good feeling for sure. I hate to be vulgar. You've seen the movie and it seems like it's kind of vulgar, but it's really not a vulgar movie. It's not a movie that you couldn't show a 13-year-old. I think it is a family movie in a lot of ways. It's strange, but it's not obscene in any way. But the thing I'm going to say is a little obscene. When you finish this movie, it feels like you've taken the biggest dump, and it's just like woof. It's out. You made this bowel movement and it's done and you can go to sleep. Like that's the only thing I can. It's a satisfaction like that. It's a satisfying feeling.
And then when you're shooting, so like camera angles, what's like the process of choosing those?
Yeah, the process of angles for me, I came a lot from the influences, just other movies that I liked. I was thinking, how can I kind of copy that? And of course those choices come from those movies telling a story visually. So I wanted to tell a story visually. I wanted to find the best camera angles and shots to tell my story. I did not make any storyboards. We kind of found the shots in a kind of a pre-planning week where we just spent the week in the location shooting what we were going to shoot. And then once we were going to shoot, then we had we knew, okay, this is how things are going to be set up. And then we shot what we shot. We shot it again, So it was like almost like a visual storyboard, I guess, so that we were all kind of familiar with where the camera was going to be. Mm-hmm. But of course, what was nice is a lot of the movie's handheld. And so we could kind of just move the camera, wherever we wanted, wherever the actors, wherever it felt right, we could do that sometimes. I don't typically like to plan out a lot of that too much because I just want the actors to be free. I don't want them to feel like they have to, they do have to hit their marks when we start to kind of get things into it. But when we're first planning it out, like I would just want them to say like, okay, well, what would Sal do? What would they do? And of course I get a little too loosey goosey and that does cause problems in the editing for sure. But it's more rewarding to have those good performances than anything else for me, for what I'm looking for. I want those good performances,
Yeah, definitely.
So
for me, I use words so that help me organize it and just like order that I want, and then I get the images later.
Right. Yeah. I kind of do that too in a lot of ways, like a shot list. Like I kind of think about it as okay, I'm gonna cut here. I'm gonna cut here. I'm gonna cut here. Try to at least.
Right. So for you, it's more of like seeing. I guess that has this positive where you can see the location first, and then you can plan for it. So then you know what you're working with instead of
exactly.
You have a plan. Now you're just like, oh, it does not work here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. I always want to kind of know my location. If I can know my location when I'm writing, that's even better.
Yeah.
Which for this, it was like 50-50. Like I kind of had an idea of the location, but I didn't actually have it locked down. So it was, the location was a good find for sure.
So before I forget, I want to ask about like when you first made like your first movie, and that was film. So film cost a lot back then.
Well, not my first movie was like I said, like I was 3 years old. My dad, that was pretty cheap, I guess. It was like 8mm. But yeah, that was real film. It's kind of interesting.
Yes. So I think you said it before, but what do you want people to take away from the movie when they watch it?
What I want for this movie is for people to laugh. I just want to make people happy. I just want to entertain them. I think that's the big thing. I kind of, the other side of that is I want to make them squirm a little bit. I want to make them a little uncomfortable. And the benefit of laughing and being uncomfortable is also thinking. I want them to watch it and I want them to say, oh, I'm thinking about things in a little bit different way. Whether that's relationships with their children, relationship with their spouse, relationships with their boyfriend, girlfriend, relationships with older folks, maybe, because we know there's aging in this movie. That's the ultimate goal of like making them laugh and making them a little uncomfortable.
Got it. And so you personally, you stuck with like this kind of field for your whole life. What kind of like kept you with it?
Yeah. The answer to that question is, the deep, dark psychological things that drive me. I have been driven by things I don't even understand. I think that the biggest thing though for me, like the most like superficial thing, right, is like when I look at the world, a lot of the world I don't like. I get a little sad about the state of things. I don't know. It doesn't matter your political persuasion. It's like sometimes just people being mean to each other is just unfortunate, and it's been that way. I think my whole life. Like it's nothing new. It's like they were always bullies, right? They were always just people who were not empathetic, who just didn't care about the person on the street or the person who lived in their house even, and it kind of just always bugged me. And so movies for me is a way to get away from that. Movies are an escape, that's why you watch Marvel movies or whatever, because you want to escape. So in my life, movies have been an escape. And I think movies allow us to, or they allow me to create another world. And so maybe the escape into like the X-Men movie, that's not really the escape I want, because it actually doesn't feel like, it feels like not an escape sometimes. Like sometimes I watch movies and I'm like, I'm actually not escaping. I'm like back in this world that I don't like, And so I can create my own movie. I can create my own reality. And that's what I've done in Manbaby. And that's what I've always done in all my movies, is that I'm just kind of, it's a little bit of an escape. It's a little bit of creating my own world. It's an ego thing, it's kind of boosting up my own ego. And I kind of understand these things, and I understand they're not, that interesting maybe to other people, but that's how I am doing it. And I do think though, that with the movie Manbaby, I think it is a little bit interesting to other people. I think there's lots of universals in Manbaby which of course is coming out in Seattle, August 17th, and Portland, August 20th, and Los Angeles, August 26th and 27th. So if any of the listeners are in those cities, they should definitely try to check us out in a theater on the big screen, because it's going to look really cool on the big screen. And in my promotion there, I forgot what the heck I was saying. But I am trying to get this movie to lots of people, because I think that, it will kind of resonate with more people than just me. I think it's from me, it's from my mind, it's my attempt to create a new world, but I think like there's something in it for lots of different people, lots of different people.
Definitely.
Especially people in Seattle, Portland, and Los Angeles. But online you can watch it too. So if you're interested, if you're listening to this and you're saying like, what is this guy talking about? Definitely you can check it out online, manbabymovie.com.
And when you was writing it with theater in mind? Because I know like a theater experience is different from like a phone or TV experience.
It's definitely thinking of it like always like big screen, we did a lot of like teasers that were like just for the internet, but the movie I always thought was going to be a big screen experience. And I definitely pick shots with that in mind. I think it is a different movie too. I watched it a bunch of times on a computer, and then I've watched it on a big screen, and I think they're both good. They're both valid to watch. I don't think it's like, oh, you have to watch it on a big screen. But it's a different movie on a big screen, I think that's true for most movies, right? I mean,
yeah.
It becomes a different movie.
And I guess a couple more questions and then we'll be done. So when you're rewatching it over and over again,
yeah,
like, do you like, is it every time you catch something, or is it more of just like, this becomes routine?
I would say I still every time I watch it, I enjoy it. Every time I watch it, and then every time I watch it, I see new things that I enjoy. And that's because it is like this world that I've created, and I like going into that little world, certain things just like bug me, like little things that I wish I could do differently bug me, because it's a thing that I made, and there's always going to be things that I wish were different, and that sort of thing. It could even get a little boring sometimes, because I'm so familiar with it. But I don't know. Seeing it so many times, like I think me and Joe, we have to watch it the most, and I think as long as we keep watching it, we still enjoy it. So that's good. We keep watching it, we enjoy it. But I do think even for an audience though, like you could watch this a couple times and see some things that you didn't see the first time, I think, which is cool. I think most movies have that, but I think this one has it, kind of some little things, some little Easter eggs.
Nice.
I don't know if you noticed, there's a billboard in the movie and a phone number. That's a little Easter egg that we might want to tell the listeners.
Look out for.
Watchers, look out for the Easter eggs. There's a phone number, and it might work when they call it. So,
well, I want to thank you for your time.
Yeah.
And the last question I have is, what would you name your origin story?
Yeah, the name of my origin story would be wow. Right. You might need your editing skill on this. There's gonna be a long pause here. My origin story name, and I've had the whole podcast to think about it because you told me it was coming. Just a title of the origin. I think it would be I could come up with some funny ones, I guess. I don't know. I think it would be like like Born Silly or something. Born Silly, born Twisted, maybe born 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 different.
One different.
Born different, maybe. I don't know. I wish. I think, I'm sitting here saying I'm born different, and I think, we're all born different. Everybody's unique. Everybody's got something to say, and so there's nothing special about me. The unique thing about me just in this moment, though, is that I made this movie Manbaby, and so I really appreciate your time and appreciate being on the podcast, because it just helps me get the word out. So
Yes.
Can't thank you enough.
Yes, thank you for showing interest.
Yeah, really means a lot to me. And this actually is the first one that I'm doing. So definitely, I'll always remember it. I got a bunch more lined up. Over the next month. So, but this is the first one. So I'm super excited to get to do this one and all the rest, and share the movie with people. So I hope people will watch it. Can I ask you, what did you think? Like what just in general, like some general thoughts?
So when I first seen that, I was like, okay, cool. I'm gonna have to get used to this. Because I was like, okay, this is definitely not my element. This was like my first reaction. And then over time, I kind of was able to fall into the world of it.
Interesting. Cool. Was there any part that you like particularly liked, that you particularly thought like, oh yeah, like this is kind of cool? And then
I want to say that I think I still had to like keep watching like multiple times to like get all the ideas, but like
Sure.
Mostly for me it was just mostly like I get it now. I get it.
Yeah. Right on. I'm glad you got it. Like it does, because it kind of takes a little bit to get into that, and then once you're there, yeah, that's cool. Well, I really do appreciate it. And yeah, and we're going to be streaming August 17th on manbabymovie.com, which will lead you to vimeo.com on demand. Manbaby is where you can rent it on demand on August 17th for everybody who's not in Seattle. But if anybody's in Seattle, they should come down. Central Cinema, August 17th, 7:00. And if anybody's in Portland, they should come on down to the Fourth Wall PDX, which is owned by the actor, Asa Fager. He's the main actor, and he owns the venue that we're going to play at. And it's going to be a free show. So anybody in Portland can just show up and watch this movie. And that's really cool. And then anybody in LA, we're playing 2 shows at the Royal Lemley, which is in West LA. And it's going to be August 26th. It's a Friday. August 27th. That's a Saturday. And both shows are at 9:30. And all those shows you can get tickets for now online. And if anybody wants to just message me at the Manbaby Facebook, they can do that if they need information. But you can get tickets now. And I suggest they get them early, because we're gonna sell out, most of these shows. So they should really get those tickets early.
All right. Again, Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, Zeke. I really appreciate it.
Have a nice day.
You too. Take care, man.
That brings another episode of the Let's Get Podcast to a close. Again, you can find more information about the movie Manbaby by clicking the link in the description below. This is the last episode of Season 8 of the Let's Get Podcast. You can find more information about my next plans with the closing episode that also premiered today. Hope you enjoy this day, and hope to see you there.